Hello, Algebros. Adding another layer to solving quadratics by completing the square today. So if we look at 5 and 6, we notice that our squared term and our x term or b term are not on the same side. So we're going to have to get them on the same side first. So number 5, you see that our m squared is on the left, but our 12m is on the right. So we're going to have to move our 12m because he's lonely and he wants to be with his other m friend. So we're going to add 12m to both sides, and we have m squared plus 12m equals negative 27. Hey, now we're good to go. We got our m's on one side, our constants on the other. Now we need to identify our b term, and our b term is positive 12. We're going to take our b divided by 2, which would be 6, and we're going to take our b divided by 2 squared, which would be 36. All right, I'm going to blow your mind and go straight to factored form instead of showing the adding of 6 on both sides. So if you've noticed, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but all of our perfect square trinomials factor to our variable plus this term, and then we square it. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to factored form, m plus 6 squared, and then remember we're adding that 36 over here. So I have m plus 6 squared equals opposite signs, subtract the number, keep the sign of the larger, so we would have a positive 9. All right, now that I have my squared term by itself on the left, I'm going to take the square root of both sides, leaving me with m plus 6 equals plus or minus, and if you know anything about 9, 9's perfect square, 3. Don't you just love it when it comes out nice and pretty? We don't have all those crazy radicals in our answer. I do too. So we're going to split it off into our two solutions. Notice I tend to split it off when it comes out pretty, and I don't when it stays in radical form. Just because that's our exact answer. It's plus or minus that, and we're not going to go any further. But when we have an actual number that we're going to be able to add and subtract together, it's better to split them off to show the two solutions. So we're going to subtract 6 on both sides. M would equal negative 3, subtract 6, and m would equal a negative 9. So those would be the two solutions to this quadratic equation. All right, if you get to this point, you go drop the, I don't know, what emojis do we have available on Teams? Drop a random emoji in the Teams chat so I can see you got there. But pause the video so you don't miss number 6. Welcome back. Number 6, we have x squared minus 67 equals negative 6x. So again, our x squared and our x term are on different sides of the equal sign. Well, being on the left side or the right side doesn't really matter in the scheme of things. So I'm going to choose the direction that only requires one step. I'm going to subtract x squared. I guess we're going to have 2 steps no matter what direction we go, but that's all right. Whenever we're solving quadratic equations, we never want a negative x squared term. And you know what the best way to get rid of a negative is to multiply by a negative. But in order for it to remain equivalent, we have to multiply the whole thing by a negative. So I'm just going to put negative 1 out here, big parentheses, and we're going to distribute that negative 1. So we have positive 67 equals positive x squared plus 6x. Sweet. Now we don't even have to worry about it. Again, being on the left side or the right side is really not important because we know what our b term is, and we know that all of our constants are on one side. So our b term would be 6 because it's on the x term. B divided by 2 would be 3, and b divided by 2 squared would be 9. So I'm adding 9 to 67, which would give me 76. And then that would be our perfect square, so x plus 3 squared. And if you don't like that, don't do that. Go ahead and put the plus 9 on both sides and factor that way. This is just a shortcut. All right, now that we have our squared term by itself, I can take the square root of both sides, and I get plus or minus the square root of 76 equals x plus 3. I have a feeling that 76 can be factored. I don't know if anything's going to come out, but it can be factored because it's an even number. So let's factor it. Let's start with 2 since it is even. 2 would go into 76, 2 goes into 7, 3 times. 2 goes into 16, 8, still even. Well, I at least know what 2 is coming out because I already have a pair. 2 goes into 3 once, 2 goes into 18 9 times, and 19 is a prime number. So all I have coming out is 2, and 19 doesn't have a buddy. Poor Kevin, he has to stay home alone. So I have plus or minus 2 radical 19 equals x plus 3. So now to solve it, to get x by itself, we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Can't combine the 3 and the 2 radical 19. So we have negative 3 plus or minus 2 radical 19 equals x. So those would be our two solutions. If that bothers you, you can rewrite it this way. I know it bothers me, but those are our two solutions. Again, I hope it's becoming a little bit more clear. The steps are becoming a little bit more automatic and easier to follow. I will do one more video that is for big brain time. So stay tuned if you want to watch that one.